In Australia, over 40,000 men and women are currently behind bars. They've shattered countless lives, destroyed families. Some have been responsible for unspeakable violence.
There are just some people that are just evil of heart.
She's just scary. She's just real scary.
Some people are born with just that evil gene.
If you think you've seen and heard it all, you haven't. The truth of life behind bars in some of Australia's highest security prisons, told by the people who know.
It's dangerous on a daily basis. It's life-threatening.
Stabbings, hangings, people getting their heads stomped on.
If I was dangerous when I went in, I was more dangerous when I came out.
In this episode,
He skipped bail.
Tony Mockbell, the country's most infamous drug dealer, goes on the run.
It became sort of a criminal Where's Wally?
I have committed terrorist acts in Australia.
And the girlfriend of Lint Cafe siege killer Man Monis murders his wife.
And Amira Drutas stabbed her 18 times.
Plus, the most daring prison escape ever in Australia.
There's only one way that we can get out. You've got to hijack a helicopter.
But first,
Hey, please come! Someone has shot my parents. I think they're all bleeding. They're on the floor. They're not breathing. What do I do? My mama!
this 000 call was recorded on July the 10th, 2001. Seth Gonzalez has just found his parents and sister brutally stabbed multiple times in their family home. But not all is as it seems. Seth Gonzalez knows exactly what has happened to his family because he is the one who's killed them. Ultimately, prosecutors will prove Gonzalez murdered his family to try and inherit their fortune. And for these horrific crimes, he will be found guilty and receive 3 life sentences. He's currently incarcerated at Lithgow Correctional Centre, a maximum security prison in New South Wales that holds around 400 inmates.
He's such an evil little prick.
This is former policeman and crime author Duncan McNabb.
Life in prison for someone like Seth Gonzalez would be mundane and boring. It's very much routine driven. Seth Gonzalez would be working in the prison system. The lucky ones are perhaps in the library. The less lucky ones are cleaning toilets.
Gonzalez does anything he can to break the tedium of prison life.
He's become very fit. He's buffed up quite nicely. He's got a bit of a legal background he can play up. That'll appeal to a lot of prisoners. He can be giving advice.
And it's this legal background that indirectly becomes the main reason Gonzalez kills his family.
Seth was a law student working part-time with his father, who was an immigration lawyer.
But Gonzalez is failing university. His sister Claudine has found out he's been lying about his exam results and has told their parents. Teddy and Mary threaten to take away their son's allowance and his beloved car. Gonzalez is furious.
Seth's decided to kill his family because all he wanted was money, power, ego. What he is just a cold-blooded killer. July 10, 2001 is the day Seth put his plans into action.
Late afternoon, Gonzalez has an argument with his parents at the family law practice. He drives home, angry, around 4 p.m. His sister, Claudine, is upstairs studying.
He attacks her with a baseball bat. Having beaten her around the head, he tries to strangle her. That doesn't quite work either, so he attacks her with a knife. and she dies. Horribly and slowly.
It's now around 4:30.
He's lying in wait for his mother to come back from the family law practice.
Mary arrives home at 5:30.
His mother walks through the door and he attacks her immediately. And he attacks her with a knife because he's learning from his experience from this gruesome attack that baseball bat, probably not that effective, slow, strangulation, forget it. Knife, fast, effective, brutal. And then he waits even more for the father to come home.
It's now 7 o'clock.
His father walks through the front door innocently, and he sets upon him immediately. His father had his spinal cord severed, such was the brutality and ferocity of the attack. The last face they saw before they died was their homicidal son, which is just utterly appalling.
Gonzalez now sets about making the murders look like a racist home invasion gone wrong. He daubs offensive graffiti on a wall.
Fuck off Asians, KKK.
Gonzalez removes the fly screen from the kitchen window and scatters the contents of Teddy's briefcase and Mary's purse around their bodies.
Seth has then gone out to dinner with a mate. The mate doesn't detect anything wrong. Seth has just killed 3 family members and he calmly goes about a social occasion in the city. He comes home about 11:30. He calls 000.
Please come!
Obviously, fakes being agitated. And shortly after that, the police arrive, the ambulances arrive, and it suddenly becomes a murder scene.
Tonight, family tragedy. A couple and daughter murdered in their Sydney home.
The first thing you do as a copper is that you stand back, take a deep breath, and look around. While Seth's excuse was intruders had got into the house and had murdered everybody. It was obvious that the 3 people had been murdered over a space of hours. Now, if you're going to be committing a robbery or a racist attack, for example, you're not going to hang around the crime scene for 3 hours.
A few days after the murders, Gonzalez goes back to his family home with police to reenact what happened when he found Claudine in her bedroom.
But there was definitely blood coming from that area. And somehow I assumed in my head that her heart's still beating somehow.
But when they've been dead quite a long time, blood doesn't gush out of a dead body. The terminology's wrong. Seth's story doesn't work.
But while police are now more than suspicious, Gonzalez makes an emotional appeal to the public to help catch his parents' killer.
Please help us and provide any information that could possibly help.
He then plays a very public role as this grieving, absolutely grief-stricken young man. He goes to the funerals. He sings at the funerals.
Papa, Mama.
Seth becomes a centre of attention.
Be there.
And that would probably play to his ego. He was enjoying the show.
Sorry.
But as Gonzalez revels in the media's attention, the cops discover something chilling. These killings weren't the first time he'd tried to murder his family.
When police later interrogated his computer, they found that he'd been searching toxic plants on the internet, and he'd got hold of some toxic plant seeds, which he'd popped into food.
Gonzalez had been trying to poison his family. Coming up on Australia's most dangerous prisoners, Gonzalez lies to police get bigger and more desperate.
He paid her to say that he was at the brothel at the time the murders were happening.
Seth Gonzalez has savagely stabbed his mum, dad, and younger sister to death in the family's Sydney home. But police now have evidence that he first tried to murder his mother Mary the week before by poisoning her.
He'd got hold of some toxic plant seeds, which he'd popped into food. His mother was actually hospitalised for a couple of days. So Seth had been planning the murder of his parents for quite some time.
Just a few weeks after killing his family, Gonzalez is speculating about how much money he will come into and how he will spend it.
He moves to a penthouse in Chatswood, and on the internet searches, he's thumbing through, shall I buy a Porsche? Shall I buy a new Lexus? So the grief didn't last terribly long.
None of this goes unnoticed by police, who are quickly unpicking Gonzalez's intruder story piece by piece.
Is it a home invasion to steal something? They haven't stolen anything. Is it a racially motivated attack? They've looked at that. They've then looked at his handwriting and think, well, hang on, the handwriting on the wall looks not dissimilar to the stuff we've found in the house that Seth has written.
Police also find a tiny speck of blue paint on his clothes and match it to the paint on the wall.
Everything he's done at the crime scene has pointed the finger back at him rather than to distract police.
But Gonzalez's alibi truly goes out the window when his Aunt Emily Luna tells cops she'd called at the family home on the night of the murders.
She knocks on the front door. No one answers. She goes off, but she remembers seeing Seth's car in the driveway. This is about 6 o'clock.
Gonzalez now changes his story. First he says he'd called in home around 6 p.m, but didn't get out of the car, and that's why his aunt saw it there, before he drove off to have dinner with his friend. Then later, he tells cops he actually took a cab to visit a prostitute before he drove to have dinner.
He paid her to say that he was at the brothel at the time the murders were happening. He also paid a cab driver to say he dropped him at a brothel as well. I don't think it ever dawned on him the fact that the police were aware that the murders had taken place over 3 hours rather than a short space of a visit to a brothel. So he's contradicting himself. His lies aren't working.
It's now 11 months after Gonzalez has slaughtered his parents. For almost a year, police have been working tirelessly on the case to have enough evidence to charge Gonzalez with the murders of his family.
As you're well aware, you've been a suspect in relation to the murders of your mother, father and sister for some time now.
Yes.
I want to inform you now that you are formally under arrest.
Seth pleaded not guilty at the trial. The evidence against him was massive. He was convicted quite swiftly by the jury.
Handing down 3 life sentences, Justice Bruce James said Gonzalez had killed them to obtain his parents' wealth without delay and as their sole heir.
Seth doesn't have any indication of parole. He's going to spend the rest of his life in prison.
His home at Lithgow Correctional Centre is a maximum security prison for some of the worst in the country. Seth's fellow inmates include serial murderers, major drug dealers, and rapists. A far cry from the life he was dreaming of.
He was the sweeper there. He was the guy that gave out meals and did chores and whatnot, cleaned the place.
John Killick is a former criminal who spent time in prison with Gonzalez.
He came straight over to me and said, "Oh, John, hi, and I'm Seth Gonzalez, and look, what do you want? I'll give you this, that, I've got extra there." I said, "Oh, thank you."
Every step of your day is choreographed and watched by a prison officer, either physically or on CCTV. They have dinner in their cells and they watch a bit of television if they've got TV. And then lights out around about 9:30. And lights back on next morning around about dawn, and up again to do exactly the same thing day in, day out.
Despite a lot of time to think about his crimes, Gonzalez shows no remorse for what he did.
This ongoing refusal to accept his crimes, refusal to show any sign of remorse, and this constant saying, I'm innocent, it's all part of his shtick. I don't think he believes it, but it's the show he's taking to the world. Seth will be taking his secret to his grave, and he'll be denying everything until he's a very, very, very old man.
Whether it's walking out the front door,
7 News can reveal an inmate strolled right through the front gate.
Or digging a good old-fashioned tunnel.
The hull was found hidden under a cabinet during a search of the furniture workshop.
Escapes from prison are more than just the stuff of movies.
He had a range of bed sheets that he tied together and was able to swing them over the wall.
In the 90s, an average of 130 prisoners broke out each year in New South Wales alone.
People call me a great escape artist.
This is ex-con John Killick, whose escape from Sydney's Silverwater jail in 1999 was, well, like something out of a movie.
You know, I said, there's only one way that we can get out. She said, what's that? I said, you've got to hijack a helicopter. She said, brilliant.
The woman John's talking about is his then Russian girlfriend, Lucy Dudko.
So she did a trial run. So we knew enough to be able to pull it off.
So on March 25th, 1999, John uses the prison phone to call Lucy.
So I got onto her and I said, look, I'm going out for a run in the Oval. So she went ahead and hired the chopper.
Once Lucy and the pilot are in the air, she doesn't mess around.
And she said, oh, look, is that a prison over there? She pulled out what's called an assassin's gun.
What did she actually say to you?
This is a hijack.
He thought it was a toy. So he was thinking about knocking that out of her hand. She picked up the vibes and she pulled the submachine gun out and it changed his mind.
What happens next is straight out of a Hollywood script.
She saw me. He flew down, hovered about that far off the ground. I jumped on. She handed me the submachine gun. I sat on the thing and swung around like that, and they all died to the ground. And the tower guy fired 3 shots at us. As I got in, I heard it go. Well, they hit us 3 times. They didn't bring us down. We were very lucky. So we got away.
But John doesn't get his Hollywood ending.
After 6 weeks on the run, it was all over. Killick got 15 years. Dudko was finally released in 2006.
Today, John and Lucy are no longer together.
That was it. That was the end of the section for us. But that's what happened. That's how it happened.
Coming up, Tony Mockbell, one of the country's most charming yet ruthless gangsters.
A drug dealer who arranges murders.
Goes on the run from police.
Became sort of a criminal Where's Wally?
This is arguably the most famous wig in Australian criminal history, and its wearer is one of the country's most infamous drug dealers, Tony Mockbell. Mockbell's name might be familiar to you because of his association with gangland boss Carl Williams. Williams waged war on rival crime gangs across Melbourne 25 years ago, and Mockbell was firmly on the side of this fellow gangster. Before Mockbell's eventual downfall and arrest, he was very, very good at dealing drugs.
3 kilograms of the drugs were concealed in statues and candles.
So much so, he had assets worth around $55 million. Money that would buy him protection and power once he went to prison. In 2012, he was sentenced to 30 years for his role in running his drug syndicate known as The Company, later reduced on appeal to 26 years in 2023. Today, Mockbell is in Barwon Prison, a high-risk maximum security facility in Victoria that holds nearly 500 prisoners.
Tony's a nice guy.
Ash Langsworth is a former correctional officer who had dealings with Mockbell in Barwon Prison.
Back then, the conditions were extremely tough for Tony. Really restricted on phone calls, visits, meals.
Tony Mockbell, I always thought it was James Cagney or one of the old gangsters.
Paul O'Sullivan is another former correctional officer.
If you're going to be a criminal, be a good one, and you can't say he wasn't a good one. You always had one of the hardest blokes in the unit, with him at all times. Like he always had a bodyguard with him. The money, the power. Tony knew he was in charge.
Mockbel may be seen by some as a successful criminal, but his drug empire undoubtedly wrecked countless lives and families. But that said, Mockbel wasn't your everyday hard man. He was different.
Tony Mockbel is regarded as one of the easy-to-meet crooks of that era.
That's author Andrew Rule, who co-wrote the Underbelly series of books, with one specifically about Mockbel. And he reckons it's Mockbel's humble beginnings as a pizza shop owner that made him a uniquely charming kind of gangster.
He was always comfortable with meeting strangers. He was affable, he was mine host. He had that sort of retailer's knack of being friendly to people. He was a gambler by instinct, and he needed money to gamble, and that led him into drugs. He rapidly made so much money that people worked out that he would have to sell 5,000 pizzas a day, which he clearly wasn't.
By the late 90s, Mockbel needed a way to clean his dirty drug money. And so, he's running the Tracksuit Gang, a criminal outfit that did the rounds at the Melbourne horse racing track.
They didn't mind spending 100,000 in a day and going home with 80, because it'd be 80 of bookmakers' money, which was their way of laundering dough. Once he got a lot of money, he would spend it lavishly, and that endeared him to a lot of people. He was always trying to have police, lawyers, possibly politicians on side, because that is their insurance policy, and they rely on that to keep them one step ahead of the law.
But the law did catch up with Mockbel in 2001.
He's arrested on a pretty big cocaine importation charge. He's bailed in 2002. I'm not saying he shouldn't have got bail, but it's interesting that he was able to get it.
Once out of prison, Mockbel goes straight back to dealing.
He formed something that they called the Company, and he and others were importing large amounts of drugs.
By 2005, MDMA, otherwise known as ecstasy, is one of Mockbel's drugs of choice. But he unwittingly buys chemicals to make the drug from an undercover cop as part of an AFP surveillance sting, and he's arrested.
He was charged and he was bailed again in 2006.
By this point, Mockbel has been charged with drug offences twice and released on bail twice.
But while he's on bail in early 2006, he receives information that he is likely to be arrested for 2 of the Gangland murders.
In the Melbourne Gangland Wars, Mockbel's allegiance is to Carl Williams and his family. Tony Mockbel was accused and acquitted of organising the murder of Louis Moran, part of another infamous crime family, the Morans. But hanging over his head was another murder charge, the shooting of well-known kickboxer Michael Marshall.
Tony Mockbel knew that the evidence against him would probably be strong, and that if he went down on those, he would be locked up for a very long time. And that is when he skipped bail.
On March the 19th, 2006, Mockbel fails to turn up for his twice-daily bail check-in at South Melbourne Police Station, immediately forfeiting his $1 million bail.
Everybody wondered for months and months and months if he'd gone overseas. It became sort of a criminal Where's Wally? The reality is that he went up to Bonnie Doon, which is in the central part of northeast Victoria. It's famous as the place that was featured in the film The Castle.
And Mockbel would feel its serenity for the next 8 months, hiding away in a house on Lake Eildon, hatching the most audacious plan to escape Australia once and for all. After the break, you won't believe the extremes Mockbel goes to as he makes his bolt for freedom.
They built a special hidden cavity inside this yacht so that one man of Tony's size could just squeeze in it. It became sort of a criminal Where's Wally?
It's late 2006, and drug lord Tony Mockbell has skipped bail on drug charges and is hiding out in country Victoria. The police have no idea where he is, and he's hatching the most outrageous plan to escape from Australia.
What he's done behind the scenes is arrange for an old friend of his to buy a yacht, and they built a special hidden cavity inside this yacht so that one man of Tony's size could just squeeze in it.
The plan was simple but audacious. The yacht would be taken to northern Western Australia and Mockbell would meet it there. He'd then stow away in the tiny claustrophobic compartment and travel to Greece.
And so he had to stay below deck for days and days and days, enduring seasickness, and they were able to sail to Greece.
Mockbell would spend the next 6 months living the good life in Greece and was even joined by his pregnant girlfriend. But his luck would eventually run out when a disgruntled member of his inner circle turned informer.
He went to a computer that he knew had vital information about Tony's whereabouts and downloaded this information. And he was able to hand that to the police, who then had knowledge of where Mockbell was.
Wearing a wig and having lost weight, Tony Mockbell was arrested by Greek police at a seaside cafe. He'd adopted a new identity.
What now follows is a long, drawn-out battle with the Greek authorities to get Mockbell extradited to Australia, which eventually happens nearly 12 months later.
After 21 hours in the air and 26 months trying to escape the law in Victoria, Tony Mockbell is finally back.
After the extradition from Greece, he goes to jail for a very big whack on major drug charges.
When Mockbell goes into Barwon prison, his significant wealth and criminal standing give him power and influence.
Once it got out how important he was on the outside, the crooks treated him like gods. You never had an argument with him because he didn't talk to you. If he needed something, he would get one of his lackeys to come and see you and get whatever he wanted that way.
One thing Mockbell loves to do in Barwon is cook.
I introduced the cooking program. Every fortnight they gave me a menu with a budget, and the staff would go out and collect the ingredients. Tony made a lot of rissoles, but they also utilised salmon steaks because you don't get that on the prison menu.
As authorities seize Mockbell's millions and his money dwindles, so does his influence behind bars.
He's not the guy who can buy around-the-clock protection.
A bloody showdown in Victoria's most secure prison. Tony Mockbell lies bleeding on the exercise yard as paramedics fight to save his life.
Mockbell has been stabbed 7 times by 2 members of a prison gang. He has a fractured skull and a brain hemorrhage.
Tony Mockbell, the untouchable Mr. Big, was now a scarred and battered and frightened man, eking out time in jail.
Victorian underworld figure Tony Mockbell has been rushed from a maximum security prison to a hospital overnight. It's the latest health issue for the drug lord.
Today, Mockbell's health is in terrible decline. He suffered several heart attacks behind bars.
He'll either die in jail from natural causes or from being murdered, or he'll come out of jail an old, frail guy with a lot of memories, most of them bad.
There's a whole mixed bag of gangs in prison, and they're all bloody dangerous.
The rise of organised gangs in Australia's prisons has skyrocketed in the last decade.
And that's as a result of the drug trade.
Controlling the flow of those drugs is significant. The more contemporary criminals are actually flying in by drone. Get a drone drop over the prison. It's pretty clever.
7 News has obtained a log of drone breaches and sightings detailing 26 incidents at 11 Queensland jails in 2 years.
Why gangs appeal to them is everyone's looking for validation, a sense of belonging. You get your validation in the gang because the gang's going, you're all right, you're part of us, you're part of the brotherhood.
Gangs are often formed along cultural and racial lines. In one particular prison in New South Wales, these divisions got particularly bad.
Goulburn's the first prison in Australia to racially segregate inmates.
It took 7 or 8 to be killed before they brought in segregation. They put the Aboriginals in one yard, they put the Muslims in another yard.
They'll have an Asian yard, then they've got a Middle Eastern yard with all the Middle Eastern boys in there, and then basically a white fella's yard, so that you don't interact.
In the dock being sentenced, 2 men who stabbed drug lord Tony Mockbell behind bars to impress a prison gang.
Even Tony Mockbell fell foul of this growing gang menace inside prison. That gang is called GFAM, comprising mostly of men from Maori and Islander backgrounds that inmates want to join. But the judge in this case threw the book at them.
Let me tell you, gentlemen, in a few years, GFAM and the bros are not going to do it for you. You may think you're heroes within the jail, but do you think in 20 years' time that's going to matter?
I don't see any great purpose in those people in life. I pity the poor bloody corrective service officers they've got to spend time with.
Next.
I have committed terrorist acts in Australia.
The radical who killed her lover's wife.
Amira Drutas stabbed her 18 times. It is vile, absolutely vile.
This is the face of Australia's most dangerous terrorist.
Man Monis will be forever known as the Lindt Siege gunman. The most notorious terrorist on Australian soil. He took 17 people hostage, had 2 people killed, and died himself in a hail of bullets.
But this story of murder wasn't actually carried out by Monis, but by the woman filming him here, his girlfriend, Amira Drutas. In 2013, Drutas stabbed this woman, Helen Lee, to death before dousing her in petrol and setting her alight. Helen Lee was the wife of Man Monis. Drutas would be found guilty of Helen Lee's murder 4 years later, and is today serving a 35-year sentence here at Dilwinia Correctional Centre, 60 kilometres northwest of Sydney. The prison holds just over 530 inmates, the largest female prison in Australia.
I came across Amira while she was in the mental health unit. I didn't like her.
This is Nicole Jess, a correctional officer who's looked after Drutas.
She was just the average mental health inmate that could cause a lot of problems one day and then be okay the next day. Just a real nasty person.
While Drutas's life inside Dilwinia is robbed of all the freedoms she enjoyed on the outside, she is today living in a state-of-the-art prison that recently underwent a $148 million upgrade. The emphasis here is on rehabilitation. Her cell has been designed to provide good natural light and a quiet atmosphere to promote sleep and well-being. Drutas also has access to kitchens and recreational spaces that have been specifically designed to help inmates better socialise. But like all prisoners, Drutas is still locked up for 17 hours a day. But to understand how Drutas ended up committing murder, we need to go back to 2006, when Amira Drutas went by another name.
She wasn't Amira back then, she was Anastasia, had a Greek Orthodox upbringing. Amira Drutas was introduced to Man Monis by her own mother, and they started to form a relationship. Now, at this point, Drutas is what the police call a clean skin. He didn't even have a parking ticket.
But all this changes the further she falls in love with Monis.
It didn't take long for her to be totally consumed by him. She converted to Islam in 2008 and started to spout all of those hate-filled messages that man Monis became infamous for.
I have committed terrorist acts in Australia.
This is just one of the many hateful videos that Drudas would record with Monis. She would also take part in sick acts that would later result in her falling foul of the law.
This pen is my gun.
They started writing letters to the families of fallen Australian soldiers in Afghanistan saying that nobody was proud of these Australian soldiers, that they deserved it.
There is nothing wrong in my letters.
It is completely disgusting.
Monis has 2 sons with his wife, Helen Lee. He also had several other women on the go at the same time.
He was a womanizer. She was just one of a few.
Monis's marriage is on the rocks, and Helen leaves him in 2011. Monis decides the only way he can have his children to himself is to kill his wife. Monis now sets about creating what he sees as his new idyllic family, with Drudas as the mother. He rents an apartment in Western Sydney to use for his child access visits. He would arrive with Drudas in tow, but there were very clear instructions.
At man Monis's behest, they would even call her Mummy.
Throughout the end of 2012, Monis and Drudas's desire to kill his wife, Helen Lee, grows. Brazenly, Monis first tries to have her killed by a bikie gang.
He approached the rebels' bikies and said, "I want to kill my wife." They dismissed him out of hand, and then man Monis has decided, it's all right, I can manipulate people. I can get my girlfriend to do it.
Such is Monis's hold over the brainwashed Drudas that she now agrees to commit murder for her lover.
A master manipulator, he was not going to go to jail for murder.
On Sunday, April the 21st, 2013, Helen Lee arrives at the Werrington unit to pick up her kids after they've spent the weekend with their dad.
Helen Lee has pressed on the intercom outside the apartment building.
Unbeknown to Helen, neither her kids nor their father are at the unit. Instead, lying in wait in the 3rd floor apartment is Amira Drudas. She's wearing a hijab, has a knife, and a container full of petrol.
There were several flights of stairs up to the 3rd floor. Now, she was in between the 2nd floor and the 3rd floor when Amira Drudas met her. And Amira Drudas stabbed her 18 times. She did it in front of somebody looking through a peephole who begged her to stop. Amira Drudas yelled at him, saying, "Get back inside."
Helen Lee has been savagely attacked and is fighting for her life. After the break, you won't believe what Drudas does next. It's Sunday the 21st of April 2013. Amira Drudas has repeatedly stabbed Helen Lee, the wife of her lover, man Monis, who will later become infamous as the Lindt Cafe siege killer. But Drudas's vicious attack doesn't stop there.
She poured petrol on her, was begged not to light her on fire by the resident of the apartment building, and she did it anyway.
On Sunday, a woman was found stabbed to death in a stairwell at her Werrington unit complex.
She stabbed a woman 18 times, set her on fire, and fled.
From law-abiding citizen to fully fledged murderer in just 6 short years, man Monis's brainwashing of Amira Drudas is complete, and in the mark of a man who has no moral compass, he does everything he can to create his own alibi while the murder is happening.
Man Monis was at the pool with his sons, taking videos, making sure that the clocks were in the background to show what time he was there. He crashed his car outside Penrith Police Station. Minor bingle, no injuries, but demanding to go to the hospital.
Police then filmed Monis in his hospital bed as he's told his wife is dead. His performance for the camera is worthy of an Oscar.
I'm afraid she's passed away. She's died earlier this afternoon.
Maybe someone else. Maybe it's someone else.
I'm afraid not.
That's not possible, such a thing. It's someone else.
Why do you say that?
His efforts to try and create alibis for himself were so amateur, so clumsy, they were just simply contrived.
Amateurish and contrived they may be, but Monis and Drudas remain free for the next 7 months.
Drudas, Monis's then girlfriend, was charged with murder. Monis with being an accessory before and after the fact.
Man Monis wasn't arrested for murder. He was only an accessory. She was done for it. She was arrested for the murder. Each of them, despite the gravity of the offence, despite the fact that it was a murder charge, they were given bail. How is it that you have an unhinged woman who's now graduated to murder on her lover's behalf be released out into the community? Apparently, that was safe to do so.
The community isn't safe. Exactly a year later, on December the 15th, 2014, with Man Monis still on bail, he walked into the Lindt Cafe, where 2 innocent people lose their lives.
One startling thing to come out of the Lindt siege inquest is that nobody saw it coming. In retrospect, you look at who these people are, what they did, the lack of morality, spiralling into worse and worse crimes, yet every step of the way, each of them was given bail.
Drudas's bail is finally revoked a week after the Lindt siege, and she's eventually found guilty of Helen Lee's murder in November 2016.
Justice Peter Johnson referred to court papers that showed Amira Drudas had a life expectancy of 48 years. She may not have been given a life sentence, but 44 years was close, and investigating police were delighted.
A family killer, a notorious drug dealer, and a brainwashed murderer. All of them are serving their long sentences in some of the country's toughest prisons. But despite the passage of time, Seth Gonzalez shows no remorse for his crimes.
He's continuing to write about his innocence. He's trying to get the sentence reviewed. Tried at one stage recently for a pardon.
Without his millions to protect himself inside Barwon Prison, former drug lord Tony Mockbell is today a shadow of the gangster he once was.
Over time, his enemies inside the system were able to reach out and cause him some damage.
Amira Drudas has been in prison for 7 years. She continues to cling to her radical views on the inside.
She remained a Muslim in jail. This is a woman who put a knife into another woman 18 times, killed her, and set her alight. It is very hard to think that there's any redemption from that.
Seth Gonzalez, Tony Mockbell, and Amira Drudas are undoubtedly 3 of Australia's most dangerous prisoners. Justice has been served.